Hi everybody, welcome back. I hope you're doing really well. So currently in week 3 of isolation. I hope everybody's doing alright and still feeling kind of half human. I really didn't know what to film. I didn't want to just film like another makeup tutorial, so I thought, obviously everybody's so bored at the moment and a lot of people have like started reading and stuff to pass the time. And obviously I do read like quite a lot, so a lot of people have asked me for book recommendations, stuff like that. I've done a few like on my stories and stuff, but I know obviously not everybody sees them. So yeah, I thought I'm gonna just sit down today, do my makeup start to finish, and talk through the books that I like. Doesn't make sense, don't know if it's gonna work, but I mean, what else do I have to do? Absolutely nothing. I'm not gonna talk through the makeup that I'm doing, just because I think if I'm trying to talk makeup and books, it's gonna get all. So I'm going to link all the products I use down below, so they will all be down there, so do not fret. So all the books I'm going to mention, I'll obviously link those all down below as well. So, the books I'm going to mention are books that I've read since the start of like this year, so they're all pretty recent, so they're quite fresh in my mind, so hopefully I'm like the worst at explaining things as well, so I really don't know how I'm going to explain things without just telling what happens. First, if someone says like, is that a good film, I'd be like, yeah, but he dies. Oh. You haven't seen it yet. So yeah, I'm going to try and not like ruin all of them, but the thing I don't understand, I haven't even been wearing makeup and I've been sitting outside pretty much every day. Massive spot. So the whole not wearing makeup thing is a myth. I'm going to prime my skin and then I'll get on to the first ones. Okay, so I have organised my books into kind of sections, shall we say, just to make it a bit easier, I guess. This is like my favourite thing to read about. I understand it's probably not everybody's taste, and some people are like, I don't want to know, it's nasty. I think it's so fascinating, but yeah, I do get not everybody is interested in this, so I thought I'd start with these ones. So I have this like absolute obsession with like crematoriums and autopsies and all that, in like a weird serial killer way, but I just think it's interesting. So I've got 4 of the books here. There is actually another one I'm going to talk about, but I don't have it with me because I've basically been loaning all my books out to my family because they're all bored, so they've all had to end up reading about cutting people open, so enjoy. First one I'm going to talk about, this is like definitely my favourite. So this is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. This is the first one I'm going to talk about. This is like absolute favourite, like the best book I've probably ever read. It's made by the woman who runs the Ask a Mortician YouTube channel, which if you're interested in this but you don't like enjoy reading or whatever, I'll link her YouTube down below as well because she's like the coolest and she just answers all the like weird interesting questions that you have. The book is so good, even if you like, it's not a heavy book. I don't think any of these actually are. I think people expect them to be really like super dark and freak you out about life, but yeah, I actually really enjoy reading them. I think it's good to acknowledge your mortality, I think. Because she now owns a funeral home in LA, I think. But this is about when she kind of first started working at a mortuary when she was really young and stuff, and just all the things that you don't really think about that goes on like behind the scenes. That's what pretty much all of these are about. Just do my makeup actually. Kind of forgot, just going to sit here and talk about books with no makeup on all day. That, like, 100% recommend that. One that I was saying that I don't have with me is Unnatural Causes by Dr. Richard Shepherd. He is like amazing. He is one of the biggest forensic pathologists in this country. He's worked on like pretty much every disaster that's happened. She just talks about it all from when he was like studying it, and then like an entire career in it, and the things that he's kind of learned and seen and stuff. So also if it is like something that you'd be interested in maybe doing as a job, it's like his book is really good. My like favourite 2 from that kind of genre. Also, I'm actually like pretty squeamish, so anything to do with like veins and too much blood does freak me out a bit, and neither of those books make me feel like that. So just for anyone who thinks they're maybe like too squeamish to read things like that, they're not really that gory, to be honest. Dead people aren't really that gory, are they? 3 that I've got here are, this one's called Stiff, so please don't read this in public because you get interesting looks like you are heavily into erections. Past Mortems by Keilidh Valentine, All That Remains by Sue Black, and Stiffest by Mary Roach. I did enjoy all of these, but they definitely weren't as kind of like light-hearted and easy to read as Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Unnatural Causes. I recommend reading these three, especially if you've got like nothing else to do and you know you're interested in that. Just bear in mind they are like slightly heavier than those are. They're not as kind of easy to read, and there's a lot more, especially in All That Remains, there's like a lot more about the kind of like perception of death and stuff rather than like the practical kind of mortuary based kind of shit. So yeah, but they're all really good. I like all of them a lot. Okay, so next one. This is War Doctor by David Knott. You've probably seen this quite a lot. This book did like really well this year. I've seen like a lot of people reading it, and I actually bought it at the airport when we were going to Turkey because I realised I'd only brought one book with me. This is actually another like pretty easy to read book. It's like so interesting. A real story. It's like a kind of like an autobiography sort of diary style book. He actually took unpaid leave from his job as a surgeon to work in war zones across the world, which I just think is like the craziest thing to do. About kind of like the late 90s, early 2000s, the kind of wars that were going on, about like the conflicts that were going on at that time in the world. And yeah, he's kind of been to most of them helping people. So yeah, again, like that's so interesting. It's just one of those things that, but there's a lot of things in there that I actually didn't even know had happened in the world, and it's kind of around the time that like I was born and growing up, and it's just mad the amount of things you don't actually know that are like going on around you. Just all pretty manageable. I'll read one of these in probably like 2-3 days, but I do read quite fast, but they're still like really manageable and actually really easy to read, so love that. Thank you, David. Thirsty work, this. Honestly, trying to fucking work in the same house as your parents who scream on the phone all day. So the next two books I'm going to talk about, I did actually read the... so the next two books, I'm going to mention them because I did actually read both of them, and I didn't like, not like either of them, but yeah. So the first one is If Women Rose Rooted by Sharon Blackie. One is Invisible Women, which you've also probably seen quite a lot. This is going around at the moment, and that's by Caroline Criado Perez. One of those things where I really like what they're about. They're obviously both pretty heavy, like feminist kind of stance books, which, you know, I'm all for. But I don't know, I just found them both a little bit heavy. So I started reading Invisible Women about a week ago, and it's annoying because it is so interesting, like, but it's just so heavy on the facts. If it's like that the whole way through, because I did only read like, probably read about half of it, and then I just had to go and read something else that just wasn't so like, it's very like, this happened, this is it, this is the facts, this is it, this is why. Like there's no, I don't know, there's nothing like around it, and I just was like, oh, I just got bored of it quite quick, because I love books that are like factual, like all the autopsy ones and stuff. Like I love knowing about everything, but I like when they're told in a way where you have got like a little bit of backstory as well, if that makes sense. Just delivered to you, just in facts. Kind of just feels like, you know, when you're at school and they're doing a PowerPoint and you're like, that's how I felt. Loads of people like absolutely love it, so I thought I'd mention it because loads of people seem to like it, but don't know, didn't blow me away. So kind of the same thing with If Women Rose Rooted. That is actually really interesting. They're about like Celtic stories about women and stuff, and I don't know if at the time that I read it I was just like not mentally in it, but I just kept kind of like losing what was going on really, and I was just, and it's quite a long book, it's a pretty big chunky boy. I think it probably is the same for a lot of people. If you aren't kind of like gripped straight away, it's a bit like kind of like essentially along the lines of the fact that women kind of created the earth, and the kind of like maternal basis of being a woman is connected to the earth, and that because we all live in cities and we've kind of used all this technology and stuff now, we've basically lost the kind of respect for the actual earth that we live on. So it's actually like a really, really interesting like concept and book. But yeah, it just, I don't know, it just could have been in potentially fewer words. With Invisible Women, I think I am gonna go back to it, but I just think it's gonna be one of those books that I kind of read like a bit of it and then go off to something else, because so far, and I'm kind of halfway through it, so I feel like it would have had by now, it doesn't really have like a storyline. Like, it's not written from the perspective necessarily of the writer or of anyone. It's kind of just like, this is the facts, have them. It's like, okay. Said the actual facts in it are really, really interesting. So it's obviously all about inequality and about like the world was like subconsciously created for men. So it's not like they've sat down and been like, oh, don't let the ladies in, but they've just, without realising, basically kind of adapted most of like the data in the world is, what is that? Data in the world is actually completely like leaning towards men, and it's actually based on men. So some actual like proper eye-opening things in there that I was like, shit. So yeah, definitely like worth the read, pretty interesting. But yeah, it wasn't like my absolute favourite, but still very good, and I thought I would mention it. Shall I do a red lip or, yeah, I'm gonna do a red lip. Thanks everyone. Okay, so this couple of weeks ago, actually love it, like think it might be one of my favourite books that I've read. So this section of books is like more story based, which I actually didn't think that I liked storybooks at all. I thought I was more like, have to be reading autobiography or something like factual, but I think I like the kind of mix of the two. So, whoa, how interesting. Literally no one cares. This is 3 Women. You've already seen this one quite a lot as well. This is going around. I got a hardback one. Makes me feel so expensive when I get hardback books. They're so fucking heavy. Actually, I think I read this in like 3 days. It was just so nice. It's basically the story of, guess, 3 women. I don't bring any mascara. Stupid. 3 separate women, they don't know each other, they're not like involved in each other's lives or anything. It's basically just about like their relationships with men and themselves really throughout their kind of adult lives. It's really interesting. It's another kind of like eye-opening book. There's certain bits that you read and you're like, wait a minute, that happens to everyone. Like, kind of touches on like feminism and kind of self-love and stuff throughout it without kind of chucking it in your face. I think is just really clever. And yeah, it's just like a really, you kind of end up being really involved in the women, kind of end up sort of relating to one, probably. I think that's kind of probably what happens for a lot of people when they read that book. There's probably one woman in it that they're kind of like, that's me. Really, really recommend that. It's really interesting. It's really cleverly written, I think, because it just feels so natural, kind of following the stories, and it kind of just feels like your friends sort of telling you what's going on. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the best books I've read in like a really long time. These 3, so there's 2 here by Sally Rooney, and this one is by Dolly Alderton. We're going to talk about this one first. This is like the dirtiest book you'll ever see in your life. So this is where I have my tea on it. This is where I painted my nails on it. You know, I like them to be functional and interesting. So everything I know about love. I actually read this like probably the start of the year. Similar in a way to 3 Women. I think now I'm talking about it, I'm realising the kind of things that I obviously do like. In the same way that kind of 3 Women sort of follows the stories, this kind of does the same thing but just with one. It's just like really relatable. It's one of those things kind of in your like 20s. Like, we'll really be able to relate to so much of it, and yeah, it's just like a kind of like a heartwarming kind of easy read. It's nothing too like heavy. I wouldn't say you necessarily take too much away from it or anything, but yeah, it's just a nice book to really enjoy. Why do I try and talk and do this? kind of feel like it is you, or you know somebody like that, and I think it's really relatable. Like, she's just written it in a really honest, kind of open way. I just really like that book. It's a really, really good one. Might just leave my lipstick like this, feeling fresh. And the 2 Sally Rooney books. She's like my favourite new author ever. She's so sick. She's just like a young Irish author. She's just so cool. I think these are the only 2 books she's brought out at the moment. I think this was her like debut, and then this was the more recent one. But yeah, anything she brings out, I'm pretty sure I'm going to read, because I just love her. Like, her style of writing is really interesting. So I actually read Normal People first, which I believe, I can't remember if it was BBC or who, but they are making it into a series, which I think is going to be really interesting, because it's probably going to be one of the first times that I've read something before I've seen it. Which I feel like is always a bit risky, really, isn't it? Because they might just, like, nothing like you're expecting, and you'll be a bit like, ah. But I don't know. So I don't know if she kind of writes a lot from her own experience or what, but both these books are based kind of in Ireland with like younger people and kind of the relationships between them. So I think that's really interesting, because she obviously writes from a point of, like, she has a lot of understanding around it. So I think that always makes things kind of easier to follow if people know what they're talking about, really. Out of the 2, I think I liked Conversations with Friends a little bit more. There's just a bit more to it. I think this actually is quite similar to Three Women in like a completely different way, but there's bits of it that, like, the storyline is kind of similar, but it's obviously just following one person. About like the relationship between 4 people. Yeah, and it's about the kind of crossover of like relationships and things getting like messy and feelings and all that. Really, really good. I actually finished reading that yesterday. I read that in like 2 days. It's so good. Yeah, Normal People is really good as well. That's kind of about a relationship between 2 people more, so it's kind of more focused on them and like the backgrounds they come from, etc. I literally love them. If you kind of don't really read very much and you want something to just kind of start reading that's not going to be like too much of a commitment or anything, 100% go for one of those 2. Pretty small as well, so they're kind of only, don't know how many pages, but they're not too big. Yeah, I'm very intrigued by what they're going to do with the Normal People. I don't know if it's going to be like a series or what. Like Perks of Being a Wallflower situation, isn't it? And they're talking of Perks of Being a Wallflower. Did anyone see Ezra Miller fucking choke slamming girls and shit? It's a no from me. Last 2 are my favourite autobiographies that I've read. I was obsessed with autobiographies when I was younger. That was like all I would read would be autobiographies. I think I've read like everyone's, like just really random people. Talisa's, read hers, that was actually quite good. Cheryl Cole's. Who else? Paul O'Grady, I think I've actually read his autobiography. These are like the most recent autobiographies I've read. Absolutely love these. So this is Quant by Mary Quant, and then Me by Elton John. This is a big book, but a very lovely book. I'm going to start with Mary Quant. If you don't know who she is, you should, because she is like the coolest lady. Have I got lipstick on my teeth? No. I went to the V&A exhibition must have been like last summer or something. They did an exhibition on her, and oh my god, like the clothes are actually just the most beautiful thing. A lot of people would actually recognise her stuff, but just wouldn't really know the name. So makeup brand, and it was the one with like just the really simple flower outline in the 60s, just like black and white. So cool. They help for like female empowerment in fashion and stuff. I think that was like by far the greatest era for fashion ever. She was like a pioneer of a lot of it, so really, really interesting to read that. She had a crazy life, very interesting lady, and she had really cool hair as well. Really, really shiny, cool hair. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why you do not bleach your hair. Thank you very much. Oh, piss off. Last but not least, this is Me by Elton John. Obviously, if you know me, you don't even know me. Obviously, I'm absolutely in love with Elton John. Got Elton John tattoo. Luke got me a signed picture from him for Christmas and I cried. Like, just my favourite ever. So a big one, but the good thing about this, wait for it, wait for it, has pictures. Love books with pictures. Fucking cool picture that is. What a man. Besides obviously loving his music and stuff, I really love like his story of, obviously he battled with like drug addiction for a really long time, and then he actually nearly died a few times, and then now he's got his lovely husband and his adopted kids, and he's just like really happy in his lovely house, and I just think it's really nice. The outfits are just so great, and I just love hearing about all his kind of choices, fashion. So obviously they did make Rocket Man into a film last year, which is like a biography of his life, so if you're lazy, just watch that, but this is really good as well. So face look weird. Why do I look a bit weird? I don't know, fuck it, I'm not going anywhere. For today's video, I hope those recommendations were kind of somewhat helpful. On my Instagram page I do have like a highlights with books, so I kind of just add them onto there as soon as I read things and like them, and I kind of write a little bit about them. So yeah, if you ever are stuck and this video was a while ago, go on there. The finished look, I'll obviously link everything down below, but very simple, glowy, beautiful, doing fuck all. So thank you so much for being here and thank you for watching this. Please do let me know if you like this kind of video, because obviously it's a little bit different from what I normally do, but I'm more than happy to kind of talk about things a little bit different if that's what people enjoy. Also, if you have any book recommendations that you like, please do comment them below. I do look through all the comments all the time, so thank you all. And that is it. So I hope you all have a lovely day. Positive, keep happy. This will end at some point. Every day we are another day closer to it being over. So yes. I hope you all have a lovely rest of the week. Is there any rest of the week? What day is it? Wednesday. Hope you have a nice rest of this week. Leave at home if you can, and I will be back very, very soon.